What the greenhouse does is it's kind of a maker space. So it's a space where people can play and create and innovate. It was set up by the University of Plymouth and Nudge Community Builders at the beginning of 2022. The greenhouse was there already, but it wasn't really getting used. So they wanted us to bring life back into this space. So we started to open up to the community, running workshop for people from Plymouth to come and join. We can let them use 3D printers that we've got. We've got a vinyl cutter, and recently we've got a new 360 camera. We got a couple of Oculus Quests. So we invited them to come to these workshops, and we could help them in upskilling themselves. So people could come without any skills, without any knowledge, and we would help them make the first step in their own creations. We hope to create local and sustainable thinking and help local businesses to develop.
The University of Plymouth has a civic university strategy, and that's about what benefit the university might have in the wider context, both in Plymouth and beyond. Stonehouse is one of the most deprived areas in the country, not just in the city, and it's right on our doorstep. Generally, when you have deprived communities, you've also got deprivation in terms of digital skills, so you get what's called a digital divide. So what we're looking at is, could we bring in some of that, the making skills, but with a digital aspect, and that hopefully will enable some local people to, again, overcome some of those long-term barriers that they experience and address some of those levelling up agendas around access to skills, around pride in place, around strengthening community ties. Those are all things that hopefully start to work together when you bring in the capacity from an education institution, but also really with the community leading and hopefully setting out the agendas of what they'd like to achieve.
It's a really valuable space for people to feel like they can come forward with ideas to make something happen. It's kind of like that joining of the dots, that quite often people have ideas and they don't have a route to actually making them possible. This is a space where that happens.
They have been using the computer to learn the hard skills, but the problem solving and the ideas that have come from that have been really interesting, especially with my daughter. She's been looking at real world problems and creating solutions to them. You cannot just go and buy every bit of technology for them to have a go to see if it it's something they like or something they want to do. So it's really important for us to find places like this that enable them to have a go on bits of equipment and see how it really works, see if it's something they can engage with and that they want to take further.
I've always been really keen to explore how wellbeing experiences can reach those who can't leave their home space for various reasons. That's how the connection really came about. It's completely opened my eyes to something I would have never chosen to follow if it had just been up to me. So having them physically in the space nearby and having those spontaneous questions helped me to kind of open up my curiosity a bit more to, try something out that I was a bit like, I'm not really sure about that. And then I attended a couple of days at the uni and spoke to students and PhD students and other people who were engaged in that who I would never normally be in the same kind of context with. And so it's really kind of teased an interest that wasn't there before. And I've had my own experiences with it and I've shared it with friends, and it's something I can talk about and understand and have some sense of where and how it might be developed.
So originally the greenhouse came in and I was a little bit apprehensive at first, but because it's a community, I was like, right, I'm gonna have to try and figure out ways to engage with them and communicate with them. But I just still couldn't quite wrap my head around how technology could be used at, say, a local level to be of benefit. Because I'm more like, well, maybe we should just get rid of all the technology, stop creating stuff for a bit. But then through talking to everybody in there, I was able to better understand and kind of withdraw from that conclusion that I was making. Any tool can be used for positive or negative. So if we're having the conversations, we can try and ensure that it is more of a positive run. As it's progressed, they've gotten a vinyl cutter in there, which is a great little bit of kit that I don't really have access to anywhere else. One of the main difficulties that I find with my mental health and my autism diagnosis is I can be an extremely literal person. So like what's around me is what I'm able to engage with and get done. So having these things in close proximity and being encouraged with a person in there, actively like trying to get people's attention and being like, oh, well, what is it you're trying to do? Could this be of help? Made it a lot more realistic to be able to engage with and get the outcomes that I wanted that I'd essentially put sort of a negative block in front of.
I have friends who are wonderful engravers, but to have a badge engraved is very expensive. You could do it manually with a small cutter, but the accuracy wouldn't be nothing like the accuracy needed to get the definition that you needed. And so they were able to show me with modern computers they could produce plastic badges in the same contents that I wanted. Then I had to learn how to convert them into iron. Modern technology is so intricate and so complicated, yet so wonderfully new, that there is no reason why one couldn't use it to identify it with medieval practices, ancient stuff. And I've referred to this as ancient, including myself. I'm 90 years old. The great traditions of Europe and Japan and all around the world are embedded in that technology, both past and present.
The project was a pilot and we were meant to test out some ways of working. So hopefully what next is we catalyse a whole set of projects. We've built a bit of trust with the local community about what the university might have to offer. Working with organisations like Nudge have been, again, really valuable. They've helped us understand what local needs are and how to work on the community's terms and not on the university's terms. And hopefully also take the greenhouse perhaps as a case study to other cities to say, well, this might be a way of working you'd like to do. We're thinking about the greenhouse on tour and maybe we can start to think about sharing knowledge with other cities or with other public sector organisations.
Sharing your experience and your skills in the community at large is nothing but benefit, nothing but benefit. The ability to pull people together and go in the same direction where there's improvement in one's life and improvement in one's lifestyle.
For me, one of the important things about being down in this area of Plymouth, in Stonehouse, is the growing community aspirations and the attention to that from other areas of class in the city with a little bit more spending money, wanting to help people out. And for my own personal journey, I found it excellent and a really harmonious environment to be able to not only grow myself, but grow alongside the community. That's something that's really great. Say, if there's somebody else that comes into the space and they've kind of lost hope a little bit, or they've got a glint of hope, but they just need a little bit more fuel on that fire. I can talk to them about my journey and give them that little bit of joy and positivity to go forward.
That's the main thing that we hear locally, is that what's happening in this building gives people hope. And I think the greenhouse is a really good example of that. It can just be the smallest thing, but those conversations that happen, someone leaving feeling that things are possible and that they can find a solution to maybe a challenge that they've had for a while, or that they've learnt something new, and all of those things just break down the barriers in terms of local people feeling that things are possible for them, but also the barriers between the community and the university as well, because I'm sure they'll go off and show the thing they've made and stuff like that. So yeah, it's really important on lots of levels.